So in this third part of getting started with Stata, we're going to talk about labeling a variable. Then we will talk about defining a label for a categorical variable. This happens a lot when you have a 1-0 variable. In our case, it will be where we have the variable disease, which is 1-0, but a lot of times it's a yes-no variable, or smoker, non-smoker, whereas 1 is smoker, 0 is non-smoker. Let's do a few more commands. We'll talk about getting help. We'll talk about copying results as a picture into, say, a Word document, and then I'll show you how to use Stata as a calculator. So I'm going to open my skin thickness data set, Stata data set. We saw this one previously, skin fold thickness. This is from your textbook. I'm just going to list it. It has 11 observations and 3 variables, where the skin fold thicknesses are in millimeters, and the disease variable is 1 has lung disease, 0 is control, and it's 11 people. We already talked about how to label a variable. We could go over here, but I'll show you this again. I can go over here to Data, Data Editor, Edit. But once I get into the data editor and it just looks like a spreadsheet, I can go over here and just type in, let's say, instead of saying, here's the label, instead of tricep thickness, maybe I want to say tricep skin fold thickness. And I see that changed the label. And when I go in here to the Stata windows, I see in my log over here, I see in my review windows, where all the history of every command that's taken place, I see that it has created this command, label the variable skin thick, and it labeled it with that skin fold, tricep skin fold thickness. So a lot of times a categorical variable like this disease, it's 1-0, it has numbers, but it's really categorical. It's either they have lung disease or they don't. It's yes, no. I want to assign it a format. And so it's a 2-step process. And like most things in Stata, there's lots of ways to do it. I'll show you a couple, and then I'll show you that what it's really doing is it's creating the commands for you that you could actually type into the command window if you wanted to. So it's, like I said, 2-step process. The first step is to create a label, and the second step is to assign the label to this variable. So I'm going to first create a label for this disease variable. I go to Data, Data Utilities, Label Utilities, Manage Value Labels. And you don't have to remember this. This is all going to be in documentations that you get, written documentation. And I'm going to create a label. And it's easier just to do it rather than explain it. My label is going to be called Disease Label. Where 0 is control and 1 is lung disease. And I click OK and close. And I see that it has created a command for me. And that command, I see 2 places. The log file shows me that the command was label define disease label, where 0 is control and 1 is lung disease, and I see it here too. So it defined a label for me, and now my next step will be to attach this label to the variable disease. So right now it's just a label sitting out there, but I need to attach it to this variable disease so that it knows where that label goes. And I'll do it this way. I go to Data, Data Utilities, Label Utilities, assign a label value to the variables. Again, I'll have this all written down for you so you don't need to remember it. What am I going to do? I'm going to attach to the variable disease, and it's a drop-down menu, so I'm going to attach it to the disease. And the value, the label value I'm going to attach is the only one I've created so far, which is that. And I can either do OK or submit. Okay, so it's a 2-step process. Let's see what has happened. If I do list, looky here, yay! So in my data set, it has attached to the 1s the label lung disease, and to the 0s it has attached the label control, which is exactly what I wanted. Great. And it shows up that way also in my data set. Even though it's stored as 1s and 0s, when it displays with the labels, which is nice. A few of the most common commands we've talked about already. They are list, You might want to do list, let's say, the first 5 observations. If it's a really big data set, maybe you just want to see the first 5. Oh, whoops, that shows you what happens when you make a mistake, and that lets you know that it's okay to make a mistake. It won't hurt anything. The correct command is list in 1 to 5. So if you have 4,000 observations and you just want to see the first couple, that's the correct command. All of these can be found in drop-down menus, so explore the drop-down menus as well. Describe is a good one. Tells you about how it's stored. I want to show you tabulate, and for that I'm going to pull up a different data set. So this is a data set that we have seen before. I just opened it up, and it has 7 variables and 725 observations, and it has some categorical, some variables that are stored as string, yes, no, like cesarean section, yes, no. A helpful command for that is tabulate. So suppose we want to count up the number of males and females or cesarean sections, yes, no. I could come over here, summaries, tables, test, frequency tables, one-way table, on the categorical variable, let's say that I want to do smoking, yes, no. And I could do different things, but let's just say submit. And you'll see that it produced the code tabulate smoke. I could also just type in, let's say, tabulate, and give it some kind of string, something that's saved as a character variable, like a gender. Tabulate gender, and it will count up the frequencies of each gender, and then tabulate the percents. So you don't have to remember all this. One thing is I'm going to give you a list of all of these commonly used code. It's a combination of using it in the command line, using the drop-down menu. Also, if you remember somewhat the command, you can type help, and in the command box, like help summarize, and then it will pop up lots of information, or you can Google it, etc. The next mini topic is many times you're going to want to take what's in this results window and copy it into your homework, or copy it into your public health work, into something that you're doing for your work. So let's say you wanted to copy this. If you just copy it without regard, the formatting may not transfer. So you may want to copy it, you may want to highlight it, right click, and then copy it as a picture, and then the formatting will stay, which is good. And then I could say copy it into my Word document over here, and I see that it copied nicely. The last little topic is how to use Stata as a calculator, or to get out single values. And you can just type into the command window something that you want if you want a single value, using the display command. So let's suppose that I want to display 2 plus 5. It shows me the command, and it shows me the result, which is great. I can say display 6 times 6, or display 100 divided by 5. Great. Let's say that I misspell something, then it tells me I made a mistake, and that's all right. And I don't want to, let's say I don't want to retype it. I can click on it over here in the log or the review window, and it pulls it back up, and then I can edit it. I'll see what my mistake is. I'll retype it, and then hit enter, and it tells me again the command and the result. Let's say that I want to do display 3, and this is means 3 squared, 3 to the 2nd power. You can do several different things, like okay, so if you can do some kind of complicated expression, and this would do the correct order of operations for you. And one that we will use in the class in the first several weeks will be functions like this normal function or the binomial function, which we will talk about pretty quickly in the first few weeks. And so what we've talked about here is labeling a variable, and then we took a categorical variable and we defined a label in a two-step process, defined a label for the variable, and then assigned that label to that categorical variable. We talked about some common commands, how to get help on some common commands. We also have been talking all along about two different ways to do these Stata commands, both with drop-down menus that create the commands for you, but also typing those commands into the command line. We talked about copying results as a picture, let's say, into your public health reports, and also using Stata as a calculator to get single results.